So I'd like to move on to the final segment of our conversation, which primarily has to do with Hinduism in our times. So as you put it, India and Hinduism have undergone two colonialisms, the Islamic colonialism and the British colonialism, which have damaged the transmission of
Indian culture.
Indian culture and knowledge, yes. So you have even pointed out a trend among NRIs and Hindus outside of India, which you referred to earlier today, about how NRIs are practicing Hinduism almost in the mold of a Protestantism, in a sense. And do you think you could elaborate on that and why that transformation of Hinduism is not necessarily desirable?
Desirable? Oh, look, who should decide about the desirability? We can only see some things happening, some things occurring, see what it could lead to, anticipate some vague sense. So, desirability, NRIs in America are not going to ask Balu, what do you find desirable? They are the least interested in what Balu thinks or writes or says. So, leave the desirability aside. But I'll take a question at a slightly different level. So you must understand at least two things. One is in Europe and in America. That's also happened in India when Europeans came to India with the British. They get the wise people. The ethnic chic, the hyphenated identities in America, these are the ethnicizations. It's very chic to have Indian dresses and Indian food and Indian restaurants, as long as you keep your hands out of politics, except one or two row khannas and okay, fine. They're allowed to participate, but the basic structure is in the hands of those because they are the most natively groomed to do that, or with most of them or Europeans, in America it's white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, the WASPs. Well, it's going down, but not just Protestant, Catholics also play a role, so WASP is a bit fair. But it doesn't matter. Now, when Indians go there, not just as individuals, also as individuals, but when they go there, you suddenly get questions which they had never asked when they were in India. Because these are all questions you don't ask. See, each culture, its framework tells you what questions to ask, what are permissible as answers, and so on. So, Indians are also like that, Americans are also like that. So, there are questions, and there are no answers. Like, for example, the kids go, or their friends ask, your God's wriggly sin. Why do they have 25 arms? Who Kali, it's disgusting to see, or Ganesha. First time in their lives they're hearing that, and from whites. So you can understand they'll have to construct some kind of answers to that. Organization, Swami is inviting them, and typical bullshitting stories about the esoteric, magnificent, mystical knowledge of India. So they kind of try to seek refuge in that, and society wants that. Stay within your boundaries. So that society wants you to build boundaries, forces you, and those who go there build such boundaries because they're living in a society, they have to function there. So the Hinduism that you see in NRIs is one element of it is this. A second element, which is very typical of all immigrants all over the world, is when they migrate, there is a intensified practices which are not practiced in their own native country anymore. Very typical immigrants. So they pick up festivals which you never celebrate in the way they celebrate, which are never done in India, NRIs. That's why there's a certain contempt in India about the NRIs, despite being jealous about the money, etc. $1 is equal to 95 rupees. My God, it means a lot. So, So they exaggerate it and they want to modify their practices in terms of practices because they want to fall out, become special only in some particular ways. So, adapt it to how people do how they celebrate New Year's, how we try and celebrate Deepavali, the kind of imitation. Yeah, fine, understandable, sociologically very normal. So the NRIs are doing that. In other words, for the first time, they're discovering they're Hindus. All right. That's NRI. Now, here is a problem. They try to bring up children that way. Which way? The way they remember their grandmothers were brought up. I'm talking this out of experience, and a number of NRI children I've spoken to in America. Like, for example, you can't eat onions on Thursday, you can only have pizza on a Friday without onions, you can't have all kinds of... You can't wear short dresses, you can't date. Because they try to bring the children back to what they think 1920s India was like. It was never like that, but fine. Problem is, the children have problems. When a kid of say 7-8 years goes to the class and everybody asks, why do you wear bindi? Is it true that women are burnt? Why does Ganesha sit? How can he sit on a mouse as such a fat bugger? How can you put elephant head on it? As children don't know how to answer it. Come to the parents. Parents do not know it because these questions are never asked. Why did Ganesha have an elephant head? We had a story. Yeah? About Shiva, Parvati, the bathroom story, we know. And poor elephant was sleeping on the north side, and even now we said, don't sleep with your head to the north because that elephant, the stupid fool, got his head cut off because of Shiva. Okay. This works in India. Our question is not why, we want to know the story about Ganesha's head. We don't seek explanation. So you come here and you go to the university, they tell you it's a Freudian thing. For example, the trunk is a limb phallus. He is sexually attracted to the mother. Oh God, you don't know where to look. And of course you're converted because you don't want to be ashamed. So you also start reproducing that nonsense on the one side, and if you are so deeply insulted, you cover yourself and tell your children, these are the whites, and you pick up from there. Blacks there, whiteness and racism, you know the story. And in between, the result is you're becoming even more rigid with respect to bringing up your children. But your children are living in the United States of America. They're not living in 1920s, even imaginary 1920s India. So they start cheating. They do things without telling the parents. They pretend to be very dutiful, obedient at home, but as soon as they leave home, it's another story altogether. And as they grow up, they're going to take distance from the so-called Hinduism of their parents, which is exactly what is happening. Understandable. Look, you can't bring up children today by asking them to do things which no Indian in a big city is doing. And they should go back to 20s. Crawl behind the rocks. Not possible. They cannot live that way. So how do parents answer the question? Set up clubs discussing Panini Patanjali and going to some Swami. I understand their anxiety, but it doesn't solve the problem because they don't even know what the problem is. So therefore the Indian NRI Hindus, which the Vishwa Hindu Parishad relies on, is actually an extraordinarily primitive, backward, not in all cases, but most cases, and conforming to what the society puts on you. You must have your own temple, so they spend money building the temples, get some swamis who will come and tell you about, I don't know, some Shakti or another, how Kundalini wakes up in you or not. Fine, the parents go there, drag the children hate it. This is NRIs. But they have no choice there. It's a typical immigrant phenomenon, it is typical pressure society phenomenon, and that's why in some senses most Indians are isolated. What I observed, I've gone to many events Hindus organize. It shocked me to discover very few blacks, Latinos and whites present. If I were to organize something here, I don't think there'll be any Indian almost. I'm living here in Flanders. My friends are Flemish, my enemies are Flemish. I speak Dutch. Okay, not as good a Dutch as Jacob does, I agree, but it's not so bad. I know Belgians who speak worse Dutch than I do, the Wals, the Wallonians. Yeah. But, I'm not proud of it, but fine. They're simply a vague defense. But I'm saying, I am here, rooted here. My wife is Flemish. My children are Flemish. Now, so, belonging to a ghetto, no. From the very beginning, I knew that. I never wanted to go to the ghetto. I did not seek out Indians at all. Not because I had problems with Indians, but because I didn't want to go to a ghetto. Why? Also because, you see, when you're with Indians, and this is what the problem is, you know how to deal with them. So you're actually in a total bubble, and your existence in Western culture doesn't contribute anything. Western culture becomes for you, and Westerners become to you purely instrumental to make money. You have nothing else with them. Now, this is not how I was brought up. When I'm living with the people, I must live with them as one of them. Okay, a foreigner, an Indian, fine. I don't have to hide it, I don't have to be ashamed, but I can tell them, look, I'm here amongst you as one of you. Which I do, which I have done. So, yeah, for example, I had never celebrated an Indian festival here. Quite simply, it's not possible to do so. And I don't feel any compunction to do so. That does not mean I celebrated Christmas. I didn't that either. That's not my festival. In fact, except for 2 years, the last 30, 40 years, Christmas evenings, Christmas dinners, I've never been to my parents. My parents-in-law are dead. Brothers-in-law, the family gathering, I have not gone there. My children don't like it either, but they're forced by the mother. I said, this is your family, it's your festival, go ahead. But it's not my festival. So, I don't come. So, more than 30 years. My parents-in-law were very upset. My brothers-in-law were very upset. My sisters-in-law also. And they had their own hurts and anger. Yeah, for sure, have it. It's your problem. I have no problems that you do it. But I'm not going to a family dinner. What family? If people don't behave like a family, then I know. What to me a family? Here family simply are visiting occasionally and having some bored conversations. That's no family to me. My family is different. I'd rather not have family than have that kind of family. But I understand that they live that way. They have their own things also. They're very fond of each other in very, I find, very perverse ways. But fine, that's their way of being. But don't expect me to follow that. I won't. I cannot. So, in that sense, that's how I have lived here. So, but when you're there, bigger groups. So, in other words, I have learned to go about with the Flemish in an Indian way, of course. And I keep on telling them, I'm a European, but in an Indian way. And others who know a little bit of Indians, I say, you are becoming Indians in a European way. That is what makes it beautiful. I didn't try to convert my wife into an Indian in any sense. Beginning with dresses and so on. The only thing is now and then, rather regularly, cook for me because I stopped eating meat after some time. And even there I was very selective in my meat, and the chicken I liked, others I could not. I didn't like the taste, and now I don't even do that. It's now decades since I stopped. So, if you want to live amongst the people, whoever the people is, Africans, whites, blacks, yellow, brown, doesn't matter, find a root there. Relate to them as human beings, as people. Different from you, of course, that's why you're here, no. But don't just deal with them as instruments to make money, go to India and throw your dollars around because $1 is equal to 98 rupees. And play a big daddy there, which is what all the NRIs do. Don't do that, because you're treating neither your people nor the people here as human beings. But you demand to be treated yourself as a human being. It doesn't work. You'll be treated as a human being if you treat the others also as human beings. Otherwise, don't ask that. Don't talk about racism then. Because you are being racist when you treat them in that way. Whiteness, white, race, all this kind of shit. Not that there's no racism, there is. That racism is there because people like this. I have experienced racism, and seriously in my university, yeah. But I fought. But not the way these buggers fight. Calling them racist alone. No. I fought in a different way. And won. So, why? Because that is what it means. Struggle with others to live together with them. But don't deny your distinction or difference. But then don't be contemptuous of everything they do, which is what they do. Most Indians that I know, I knew. So, and they display the same pretension when they go to India, of course. But fine, that's their problem. So the Hinduism, they live is a very uncomfortable thing. And that's why the children are moving away, because you can't live that way. They will move away. In fact, to use in the language of the RSS BJP, you're losing people. Not because they went abroad, no. In fact, my being abroad, I drew quite a few white people into India in a very serious way that take India seriously. They have no problem in ridiculing India as I ridicule India, but that does not mean they're ridiculing the culture. I am also here ridiculing the Flemish very often with the Flemish. It doesn't mean I look down on the European culture or even the Flemish culture. I don't. It's a way a people has lived for millennium or millennia. Fabulous things they've generated and created. Much that I have learned comes from them. And so I put my relationship with the Flemish. I came here, they gave me the space to seek out what I wanted, the kind of research I wanted. They gave me the space. Minimally, I must show some kind of acknowledgement and gratitude for that. They did more here to me than they would have done in India. So, I mean, I'm just giving you a psychological, ethical level as well. So, in other words, take the people seriously. You can fight with them. Friendship always involves fighting, disagreeing, shouting, yeah, sure. But that's how you build relationships. So build relationships. That's what I was taught. And I have built relationships. Of course, there's been mutual hurting also. But then you're also hurt by your parents and your siblings. Perhaps worse than anybody else. But they remain your parents and siblings, don't they? The same thing here. I have an affectionate relationship, deeply affectionate, to the people here. I consider myself as one of them, but as an Indian, of course. Not because I want to, but that's the way I am. I can't change it. I don't see any point in changing it because now I see the advantages of it as well. The importance of it as well. So, becoming in that sense westernized, while look, we become westernized in an Indian way. We just don't become westernized. Those who become westernized as those who can't live in India. But they are extraordinarily unhappy, I think. I don't think Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai are happy people. They are not. Cannot be. Because they are trying to pull their roots away from where they are. You can't do that. Even if you try, you can't do that. So that's the NRI. And they're very unhappy because they think money, recognition, yeah, it's important. But my friend, life is more than that. In fact, you can live without either of the two. But you can't live without what you have lost. So, therefore, NRI Hinduism, yes, I understand it. Desirable or not, listen, I can only see what's going on. I think they're losing people, children. Some will perhaps stay and become maybe rapidly VHP people, possible. Some of them do, but most of them will not. Pressures of society are too strong. No individual can fight society. You should not fight society. You must live in society, not fight it. So that's so I think NRI Hindus are, and that's why nothing is coming out of them. Nothing interesting, intelligent, creative has come out of NRI Hindus in the areas I'm working in. Maybe in, I don't know, quantum computing and artificial intelligence and maybe, sure, and physics and chemistry and so on. A lot of administrators in United States and, or Hindus, yeah, I understand all that. So they're capable, they've achieved something, no doubt about it. But intellectually in the areas I live, I don't see a single Indian who's contributed any damn thing worth. They're simply imitators at best and bad imitators. So it's understandable, it's very complex for them. I think they're also unhappy because of how the children are leaving. That's what I have discovered. I think the process will accelerate and continue. But with Trump now, I'm not very sure what its impact going to be. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Well, just briefly following up on that point. We've talked about how Hinduism, if it is to be considered a religion, is not like the Semitic conception of religion.
No Semitic conception, it's not a religion.
Yes, in the Semitic sense, precisely. Mm-hmm. So, however, we do see, in keeping with that train of thought, that Christianity can go around the world and people can become Christians, or Islam can go around the world and people can become Muslims. But when Hindus go around the world, conversely, many Hindus fall out of the Hindu fold, as we are discussing with the NRI.
In the last 50 years, Hindus, I would prefer the word Indian because Hindu restricts it too much. Mm-hmm. That way Sheldon Pollock has done some very good work on that. Mm-hmm. He spoke of Sanskrit empire. Mm-hmm. Okay, an empire without an empire, he called it. We spread, yeah? Mm-hmm. We didn't lose our tradition. We brought it also without problems from Kanyakumari to Beijing. Yes. So, what do you mean Hindus lose and fall out of the fold?
Precisely.
No, it's only the last 50, 60 years.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is because, at least one element, not the only thing, of course. We ourselves don't know what makes us into Indians or Hindus. It's not celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi and believing in Ganesha. We don't believe in Ganesha. Come on, who believes in Ganesha? We don't think Kali is a beautiful woman, do we? Would you like your sister to, your brother to marry Kali? Of course not. You want Ganesha as your son-in-law? Of course not. So, but they are extremely important. Kali in Calcutta, Ganesha almost everywhere, especially Maharashtra and South. Yeah. But celebrating the festival is not what makes you Hindu, any more than doing Sanjhavandana makes you a Brahmin. It's not enough. Maybe it's not even necessary. It must not. It's probably not necessary, because I'm much more of an Indian than my brother, who is brought up the same way I was. Even though in the last 50 years there is not a single festival I've done here, not a single Sanjhavandana. I stopped long ago when I became a Marxist. But probably I'm much more of an Indian in my family who are in India than they. So, in that sense, you see, it's very, in a way, it's wrong to put it this way. The Indians who went to America became orphans. That's the problem. So it's wrong to put it that way. But in a way, they were sent without resources. They have it, but they don't know how to use it. Yes. It's not that they don't have it, the resources are there. But you must learn how, that requires training. Retraining actually, how to draw it in, how to tap into the resources. That requires guidance and teaching and things like that. They didn't have it, they don't have it. So when you send them as orphans there, and they assume they don't even have resources, what they think as resources is only one way they can embroider it. The language of the area, the culture they're living in. And that language is a Protestant language. So what else can you do except use it in the way you can? So, completely understandable.
Yes, and just as you mentioned, even though Hinduism has historically expanded, we see some degree of failure to do that in the current age, particularly with...
What has not expanded?
Well, we see, like as you and I had mentioned, Hindus falling out of the fold.
No, what has failed to expand is European story about Hinduism. Only place where it's expanded is in India, amongst intellectuals, not in ordinary people. So, that it fails when it goes back to the West is understandable, because their Western understanding was shallow, and Indians carry that and want to, no, it can't work. That's why it failed. It's not a failure of Hinduism, failure of a description of Hinduism, a way of living which has nothing to do with our tradition, our cultures. Well, nothing is too strong, vaguely connected, tangentially connected.
So, how might Hinduism survive?
Meaning what?
As in not lose numbers the way
Why do you think there's a problem of survival now?
Okay, good point. Perhaps it's not the correct term to use, but among NRIs, how is Hinduism to flourish?
Well, in one deep sense, this is what Hindus should do, but they will not, because I told you any number of times to do that. You spend so much funding to build temples. Do it. You want it, you find it important, do it. But start funding research. Start funding research centers, because that is from there and there alone can we answer the question, what does it mean to be a Hindu in the United States of America, 21st century? Not your temples, they won't answer it. Not the Swamis who hardly know English. Not because they studied Upanishads they can answer a question about 21st century, what do I do working with AI and be a Hindu? Can't. So fund that. Fund knowledge. Not bullshitters, because there are any number of them. They are the only ones who are there. So Hindus in United States and the West, if they want to survive at all, reasonably happy, not lose their children to Nikes and iPhones alone and hamburgers, there's no problem in Nikes and hamburgers and iPhones. Do that. You can still remain an Indian and a Hindu. It's not the issue. But if you lose it only to that, your children will also be extraordinarily unhappy because they are not Americans, no matter what how they call themselves. I'm the second generation American. Please. It doesn't work that way. So fund that first. Do on with your temples and your swamis and your Patanjali groups. Go ahead. Fund it. Not simply fund some bloody politician like Khanna and so on and so on. Fund him also. But please. And that's exactly what they're not doing. And they don't want to do that. I've proposed it to any number of these temple groups in different parts of the United States. Because they don't see the point. Why don't they see the point? Because they don't know what knowledge is. They don't genuinely believe. They accept the European story, man. They don't believe India has anything to give. Except some esoteric Atman and Brahman story. Genuinely don't think it's knowledge at all. But they cannot say that. What I'm saying is, no, there is very serious scientific knowledge, in the best sense of the term, in the Indian traditions. That's the only thing that's going to give us sciences of human beings, a society that I know. And trust me, has looked very deep, very far, very wide. As I said, I was never a nationalist. I was a Marxist internationalist, okay? So, from there, not that I become a nationalist, I haven't. The love, respect, admiration I have to Indian culture comes from my research. Extraordinary what we have done. Nothing that I know, even remotely, can even come to the heels of what we've done already. 2,000 years ago. I'm speechless. I can't understand how the hell they did it. They've done it. So, what should they do? That. Fund research. Not is Indian knowledge systems rubbish. Not Vedic astronomy things. Not that in the time of Ramayana, Pushpak Vimana was all rockets. Don't say Brahma Shastra was nuclear bombs. Don't say that plastic surgery is how Ganesha got his head planted. Elephant head got planted in a body, human body. Don't say that. That's rubbish. So, this is all we have today. This is Indian knowledge systems, yeah? Which tells you sutra is equal to algorithm. Therefore, learn sutras, how to write sutras, you do algorithms, and you'll dominate AI. India is funding that. Indian knowledge systems, yeah? So, what do you think it produce? I can predict. Not the results, the end point. Bullshitters. That's what they're doing. Every university has Indian knowledge system because they're getting funding from the government. Who are they producing? I know quite a few of them. One or two of them were my ex-students, or they claim to be my ex-students. They've gone there because money is there, finances are there, recognition is there, speech is there, and applause is there. So, you prostitute, sell your mother for a cent. Prostitute Saraswati, that's what they're doing. That's Indian knowledge systems. Which means also, don't fund Indology. Not attack them like this Malhotra's people are doing. Western Swadeshi Indology kind of rubbish. Okay? Don't do that. Our enemy is not the West. It's not anti-West story. That's what they're doing now. That's what the Muslims are doing. It's not anti-West. Why? See, what's happening today, Rishi, structures are collapsing. American Western structures are collapsing. Indian Asian structures are collapsing. Yeah?
Yes.
So, it's not India against the West, Asia against the West or the West against us. No. A problem is different. There are something extraordinarily valuable in one, extraordinarily valuable in two. They are actually two sides of a coin. They have split in the course of history. Bring them together. Not the West and the East. Different ways of thinking. Draw from both. Build. Show how they are linked to each other. Have always been linked. But it's a split that is creating the problem. Not that humankind is one. No. Extraordinary differentiations of all kinds. But why the Western institutions? Every institution in the West is collapsing. Nothing in India does not collapse. Because each is doing something it needs from the other, but not taking it. That is the kind of funding we must do. That kind of research we must fund. That is the kind of people we have to train. You can only fund the research if you have people to do research. We don't have that. So first task, create such students. Those who are interested, show them what research is, show them what knowledge is, show them why it's interesting. More interesting than a Derrida or a Heidegger or anybody else. Far more sophisticated than that. You don't need a fucking Foucault. No, we don't. Intellectually, we don't. Philosophically, we don't. Epistemologically, we don't. Logically, we don't. Why reproduce their stories without understanding them? People who reproduce Derrida don't understand Derrida either. They do not understand what they write either. The same thing with the Foucauldians, yeah? Knowledge is power. What are they talking about? Relation between knowledge and power. They don't know what knowledge is, they don't know what power is. Not that Foucault knew it, he didn't know it either. So, archaeology of knowledge of Foucault, third-rate version of Thomas Kuhn's Structures of the Scientific Revolutions. Did you know that? Put in French language, of course. But I understand something original. It's like discovering wheel all over again. It requires originality. Yeah, fine. So Foucault is damn original. No problem about that. But don't come and say archaeology of knowledge is reversing the gaze. Oh, God. This is a story of, the trolls of Swadeshi Indology, Rajiv, and Indian knowledge systems. All the Indian knowledge systems can do is reproduce their third-rate story about India using Foucauldian and Derridian terms. That's what we need. So you must put a surface on, Brihadaranyaka by using Foucault. Hermeneutics of Hans-Georg Gadamer. That's what they do. The hermeneutics of. They don't even know what hermeneutics is, where it came from, what. No, they don't. But they know the hermeneutics of, horizon of expectations, all these words. Produce ad infinitum. And that's why they're not taken seriously in the West. I know no single philosophy department which teaches at the same level Indian philosophy as it does with Plato and Aristotle. I don't know any. There is Indian philosophy, Indian languages, Indian culture, all third-rate people. What's the Narayanas of this world? Or in literary theory, like Gayatri Spivak. Who takes them seriously? Huh? I don't know a single philosopher referencing contribution of Indian philosophy in his doing analysis of knowledge or science, building logics. Why is that? Because of this. That is possible, that is required, and that's doable. But I'm doing it. So, yes, the future is there. So what can the NRIs do? That. First, we start creating young people who want it, help them financially, help them access one or two, three, 2.5 people who are there in the world who can guide their research. In less than 5 years, 10 years, you will have 100 researchers or more doing it. That is what we should aim for. Long-term thinking. No building temples. You will not go to Swarga, man. It's simply a status symbol. Typical NRI. It's like donating some money to a university and having your mother's name there. I understand the impulse, but showing off. Status symbols. Knowledge is not a status symbol.
That ties in perfectly to the final question I was going to ask you, which is, given the long and illustrious career you've had.
Illustrious, I don't know. But
from my point of view, at least.
75 years long.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You started as a Marxist, as you put it, and you graduated into your own way of thinking and doing things, in a sense. And so throughout this entire trajectory, I wanted to know, what do you want to see change in the practice and study of Hinduism?
What do I want? Why should Balu's want play any role in it?
Because you are a knowledgeable
What would I like
individual.
to see happening in the world, you mean?
Yeah, well, with specific regard to Hinduism.
Oh, very simple. Honesty is this. If only I can, before I die, which won't be many years from now, but doesn't matter how many years, if I can see every single thesis of mine shown false, and you cannot do it unless you have a better story than I have created, that's what I want. Absolutely. Then I know, which I always thought, I am in a scientific route. And the only way I'll know that is if better theories come to replace mine. And who can do that? Unfortunately, not from the West. It will not come from there. It will have to come from young people in whose blood India flows. It's them I want to guide. And it's from them I want them to say, Balu, everything you've written, I shot it down because look, I have a better story. I think I'll be very, very happy to die. Yeah, that's what I want.
That's perfect, actually, because I think
you mean my death is perfection? Not me yet. What? Oh, Jesus.
You are a master at twisting what I'm trying to say.
I did not twist anything. You said it yourself. It's a perfect, and talking about my death is a perfect NPR. Good.
Oh, well. I must choose my words very carefully.
No, don't. This is what a teacher and a students always do. Mm-hmm. In India, isn't it?
It is, certainly, yes.
And in Europe it's forbidden, frowned upon. That's all we always do. But actually it's not frowned upon even here, come on. See, the place I'm living in, Ghent, it's a peculiar sense of humor, a beautiful sense of humor, I love it, which is what they call as pricking. Mm-hmm. That is, give very quick replies where each pricks the other. That's humor here. Mm-hmm. It's a bit like what I just now did, so it's wonderful. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Likewise.
Enjoy it.
Yes. I want to thank you for your time, Balu. It has been such a pleasure. And
I wish I could say the same. It's a bloody open goal, yeah. Oh dear God.
Yeah,
you must learn.
I'm giving you so many ins.
Oh dear. You're really not much of an Indian, I'm afraid. Yeah. Okay.
Well.
No, this is partly European, I must tell you.
Yes.
We don't normally say such things in India. You're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad, Rishi. I hope you can do research. And trust me that the number of issues are gigantic. And anybody who can do it seriously will contribute. You cannot not contribute. Okay? Of course, as bullshitter you won't, But if you want to, I think everybody, the stage at which the research is, everybody can. It's like the sky. You don't have to fight to get a part of the sky. You can use your mutti. Everybody gets it. That is where we are. So, don't be worried about your capacities or whether you'll contribute or not. These are pseudo-profound questions. They are not questions at all, because you won't know how to answer it. So, do it. I hope you will get it, and I think you will succeed. Hopefully one day to your grandchildren you'll talk about this, think about this old man who was telling you these things.
I certainly hope so as well. Yes. Thank you, Balu. It's been the pleasure of a lifetime.
Yeah, same here. Despite what I just now said.